Hashtag You're It. I'm Amanda Malcolm, and you're listening to You're It Girl, a podcast focused on you and what propels you. Because that past, it does not define you. Your time is now, and you're it, girl. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of You're It Girl. Today, we have the most fabulous woman sitting beside me named Elora Tran. And Elora, the way that we met, this is very fascinating to me. So we share a mutual friend. He is a chef, and he knows me through real estate because he knew my business partner. They met at a restaurant years and years ago, and he had met you separately and then reached out to me on Instagram and said, I met this girl, Elora, and she reminds me of you. And I think the two of you could be the best of friends. I'm going to connect you. Mm-hmm. And he connected us, and I am so glad that he did. We've talked about business things and passions and all of those things. And then just recently after I launched You're It Girl, we just had a catch up. And you started telling me some things about your past that I had no idea about, and you have quite the story. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do first.
Right. First off, thank you for having me as a part of this show. So a little bit about me, I'm a lover of business. So I do tend to do a lot of things. It's Elora / -- So I do real estate. I also have a company that has the most proven solutions for healthcare and sustainability. And we just launched this company last month. But the partners that we're with has been in business for years, both healthcare and environmental. So that's the exciting part that's new. And then I also have a marketing business that does social media marketing. So every business I start, I try to have something that's parallel to each other that helps each other in some way.
And you are very good at that. From the day that I've met you, I think you just have such an entrepreneurial spirit about you that you are you're always doing something. You're always traveling somewhere. And then you also always have, what I've noticed about you is you also always have something in the back of your mind that is also going to be next. Something that's going to be your next endeavor.
Yeah, I just love creating, I guess. So when it comes to it, I love helping people and creating and finding solutions to issues that, hasn't been found yet. So I think that's one of the things one thing is when we talk about a little bit about my background, but at 27, after all the horrible things that happened in my 20s, I made a conscious decision that everything I do after the age of 27 is something that fulfills me, that I love, and I'm not living a life for someone else. So ever since then, everything I do is something that I enjoy. So when people say, hey, what's your favorite thing you do? It's like picking your favorite children.
Yes.
This is hard.
I always sense that about you. That really conveys whenever we're talking about something that's business related. And a lot of times we are talking business when we get together. It seems like business and passions are really what we talk about. And you always convey that every time you talk about something that you're doing. One, your depth of knowledge on the subject and whatever it is so extensive.
Thank
you. Then two, you always have a smile on your face when you're talking about it. You can tell that it really comes from a place of like a deep passion.
Right.
In all the things that you explore. So speaking of background, tell us a little bit about your background.
Education-wise or business, or which portion of the background?
Sure, you can do those two. And then we'll talk about the more serious background, family background.
Okay. So I was born in Vietnam. So I came here when I was 9 years old. My mom was arranged marriage with a man here by an uncle of hers. So we both moved from Vietnam here. I had no knowledge of English. So I remember going into 3rd grade, not understanding anything that anyone spoke about. So what we did in ESL was the teacher would slide a card, like for instance, fish. It was slide a picture of a fish and it says fish. So that's how I learned English.
Oh my goodness.
And after a year, being surrounded, I was one of the two Asians in the school in Mesa. So there wasn't that much diversity. So I had to learn English at a very fast pace to understand, even to order lunch. I remember the fear of going into lunch because I was like,
it hurts my stomach thinking about it.
I don't know how to order food, It was scary at that point. But the good thing is that Arizona has treated me very nice. Like the people here are very kind and welcoming, even as a child. They taught me things. They tried to include me in things. And after a year, I learned English and was able to communicate very well. So that's my origin. So I came pretty much Arizona as the first state that we landed in. I stayed here till junior high school, and my mom, I guess I got my entrepreneurship from her. What she did is she's an investor, so she would buy a house, fix it, and then flip it the next year. Since I was like 13. So goodness. We moved by the time I was in junior high. We moved every single year for 20 times. We landed in Mississippi, which is the South. And after that, she moved back to Arizona. But I stayed in Mississippi and finished my college because at that time, I was like, we moved so much. I just want to settle down one place. I'm already in college. So let me get my degree there. I wanted to be a doctor originally. So I was pre-med. I got my bachelor degree in biology, minor in business. Then I got my master's degree, shadowed a bunch of doctors, did research at University of Mississippi. And then I found out, medicine, I wanted to help people, but the system of medicine, the way it is, I didn't like the political aspect of it. So I chose a different route. I moved to Arizona. We'll dive a little bit deeper about what happened in Mississippi and my relationship there. But I had to move to Arizona at 27. And that's when a lot of change happened. That's when I started business. And that's how I am here now in Arizona.
And hearing this story now, I knew some of these things, but it's so funny because you say your mom was obviously involved in real estate. And so you are involved in real estate. So your passion kind of developed by watching her there through that. And then you are involved in the medical field in a sense now, more from research and then obviously with this company and then with medical sales too. Right. So it's actually ironic, all those things you found your passion and in all of these ways you now have figured out how to implement them into your life to where they give you, what you need and inspire you, but you're not a doctor or just a real estate agent. Yes. You're so multifaceted.
I get bored,
because you're very smart. If you guys haven't figured out, Elora is extremely intelligent.
I'm just a love of learning. I love learning. I get bored when I don't learn something. And that's, I guess that's the thing. I have to continuously learn.
That's obvious about you. So tell us about, so you were in Mississippi, you moved with your mom how old were you when you went to Mississippi?
I was in junior year of high school. So 11th grade. And I spent, from then I spent till when I was 27, then I moved to Arizona then.
And would this have been your stepfather? Did he go with you?
That was, so my stepfather, they got a divorce when I was younger. Okay. So it was, I guess I would say that was the start of the abuse from my mom's side that I noticed in my relationship later on in the future, because he was an alcoholic and he would have these bouts of anger. And what happened was when I was 8 years old, so like 9 years old, a year after we came to United States, my mom got pregnant with my brother. So while she was pregnant, he had one of those alcoholic sprouts and started strangling her. So I opened the door, screamed, and I called 911. And after then, we stayed with my 4th grade teacher, which is Mrs. Kemp. She's incredibly nice. We stayed for 2 years. She watched over us. And then after that, we stayed at the Kastner's family, which my mom met through the Catholic Church in Mesa. So we stayed there for about 2 or 3 years. So we were so supportive by people here in Arizona. That's incredible.
Yeah. And she wasn't married that long.
No, not that long. We didn't realize the type of person that he was until we moved here. She would work. I remember her. We came here and then she did nails for a little bit. And she would make money, and then every money that she makes, she has to give to my stepfather, and he would give her an allowance of like $10, which is nothing a week, to pay for gas and whatnot. And we ate ramen for like, while she was pregnant. It was like a ramen diet, and people donated food for us. And that was our meal until we like left finally.
So he became abusive quickly.
Right. Yeah. So that was our first experience of America, as unfortunate as it is. But I remember how happy we were, like moving out of that situation, being helped by the American families, and then like having our first apartment. So our first apartment in Mesa, it was infested in cockroaches. But it had cheap rent.
We hate cockroaches in real estate. We're always stomping roaches in our Louboutins, and it is not cool.
It was not fun. But we were so happy at that moment because it was our first taste of freedom.
Yourself, yes.
Yeah, ourselves. It was such a happy moment. Yeah, so that's Arizona has always had a deep meaning to me as a state. That's why I always end up coming back here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the people here and everyone's really nice.
And so after you lived with your teacher for several years, then you lived with another family, and then you had your own apartment with your mom and your brother.
Right.
And then you moved to Mississippi.
We moved to San Francisco. And then for like 2 years. And then we moved to Mississippi because my mom had a full ride scholarship because she wanted to be a dentist at one point. So she had a full ride scholarship for her degree, which is where she got her master's in biochemistry in Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you finished middle school there or high school. I'm sorry, high school. You finished high school and then went into college. Your mom came back here. So what happened during that college time period?
Right.
Kind of in your 20s that we've been talking about.
Right. So during college, so at that time, before my mom moved to Arizona, I met this guy that I used to work with. And my first job was a host in a sushi restaurant.
Oh, I was a hostess too. Yeah, I love that job.
It's actually how I was really shy as a child. And then I was like, I need to get a job to break out of my box, So I became a host in a sushi restaurant. It made me interact with the customer, and it made me to break out of my shell. And one of the guy was he was a waiter there. I won't disclose his name, but we ended up dating. He was my first real relationship, and then we got married. And when my mom came back to Arizona, we ended up moving together. So during my college years, we were pretty much like in a relationship, exclusive relationship. And then when I was 23, he was like, "Hey, let's get married because I want my mom to move to the United States." And I was like, yeah, if I can help in any way, since we're in a relationship, let's do so. But the thing about it is that during the relationship, because he was the only person I ever dated, and my mom was so far away. She's all the way in Arizona. Like, I felt like my universe was around our relationship, And when there was like any sort of verbal abuse or even physical abuse, I thought it was normal. I mean, funnily enough, look at it now, I know better. But at that moment, he always said, "Hey, don't compare our relationship to the outsider people. Every relationship is different. Our relationship is normal." Or he'll talk down on my intelligence, say, "Hey, like, you're too stupid to do that." And
the smartest girl in the room most of the time.
I believed him because I don't know. It was like at that point I was like, he was my world. We lived together, and I took that abuse for years. We were in the relationship for 8 years, and I guess what made me finally break was I got a new job. So after I graduated college, all my friends, I've always been really sociable in college. I had a lot of friends, a lot of support. After, we graduated, of course, everyone moved back to their place. Sure. Everyone moved away. And that was that moment in time that I felt really alone. I also started a new job at university for research. We did research for nicotine relapse on rats. So I would be in the basement doing operations, surgeries on like 60 rats every day in this dark room with only like one single red light because of the research, with how rats recognize day and light. We had to operate in the dark. So I didn't really, because that job was so lonely.
You always have the wildest stories. Keep going.
I was so lonely during that time, and it was this time of introspection, right? And before that, let me pull this back a little bit. During that time after I graduated, even though we were legally married, we finally had a very nice wedding in California, Malibu, California. Spent a lot of money on the wedding. I should have seen the red flags because the night before the wedding, he wanted to leave, to just quit. And he was like, I don't want this anymore. I want to run away. And I cried because we had people flying in.
It's your wedding, the day before your wedding.
Yes, I'm going to this reception before the wedding, like my eyes are red and in tears when two families are supposed to meet. That should have been a red flag. But
I'm so sorry. That hurts your heart so much in that moment, right?
Right. Yeah. And when you look back, you see all these red and orange flags, and you don't. The hardest thing about a victim, and I would say, is I guess making that leap or making that action to change your life, because we're so afraid of what's behind that line. What's going to happen after we leave? Is dating, or am I going to get into even more horrible relationship? Is dating, there's terrible men out there, or am I going to make it, or am I ever going to find love again? All these questions and stories that we put in our mind.
We tell ourselves, and when you're in it, it's this is, that this isn't normal anymore. That it's making you uncomfortable, yet also what to expect.
Right.
So the uncertainty of opening that door where you don't know what to expect, it almost keeps you in this place of, well, I guess, I know what this is.
Exactly. So. Right. And that's what I love about you, Amanda. And, your story is very empowering as well. And this show, because the reason I want to be in this episode is because I want women to see that, hey, you can make it out and be extremely successful, and you can shine after something that's so bad happened to you. And emotional abuse is abuse. He doesn't even have to leave a mark on you, and it's still considered abuse.
Absolutely. Because sometimes worse.
Right.
What it does to your mind and how it breaks you down so slowly over time until you don't even recognize who you are.
Right. And you come to a point where you're just muting your own personality, because I remember I wouldn't even, at first I used to fight back against it, and he'll having to really violent arguments. He'll break windows and doors and stuff. And it came over a time where I just be quiet. And that actually made it worse because he felt he was right so many times. So yeah, it became a bad habit, and it made it worse and worse. And at 27 on Thanksgiving, several days before Thanksgiving, I went out and I got a restraining order from the police station.
Well, what made you do this?
It was,
you were in the basement in the dark room with all the rats.
Yes, yeah. So I was so depressed, and I realized that I'm not happy, and I'm not happy at being abused. So I asked him, I said, I told him I want to get divorced. I'm done with it. And he pretty much kept me in house arrest for 3 months. He threatened that if I leave, he's going to shoot my family. He's going to hurt all the friends I am. And so I was so afraid. And he would drive me to work and drive back home. So make sure that I don't run away. And so I had to pretend and get a backpack and put all the things I have in my backpack, and prepare for the day and pretend to go to work. And that was the day where I drove to the police, because I had to pretend hey, I'm really going to stay with you, because I realized if I keep saying, hey, I want to leave, he's never going to let me leave. So I had to pretend that I'm going to leave to get out of that situation. And I remember being so afraid the day before that, because he goes to these crazy sprouts and he has a gun right next to our bed. And that actually played against me in court later, because they were like, hey, why didn't you go why didn't you go right away when you had the argument with him? Why did you wait 24 hours after? And I said, well, I had to. That's the smart thing to do, because if I did something, what if he had a gun in the house?
Of course, that's the smart thing to do.
He would shoot me and then I'm not going to be here. Like, the strategic way is to pretend not to go and then go and find help. So the justice system is very interesting.
Unbelievable, because that seems to be such a duh moment. Like, of course, you would pretend and wait until the right opportunity comes up so that it's safe.
Right. And the justice system, like, I remember going to get a restraining order.
So yeah, what happened? So you had the backpack, you pretended like you were going to work, or?
Yes, pretended to go to work, but I actually went to the police station and to get a restraining order, and they say, hey, you don't have any evidence that it was actually, it took me 8 hours over there in Mississippi to get a restraining order. They say, hey, even if you have a picture, I remember this sentence so well. So even if you have a picture of him pointing a gun in your head, it still wouldn't be enough evidence to get a restraining order or to get protection. So
that is outrageous.
I had to argue and like really push and say, hey, and I finally got it. And then I drove to Nashville because I was so afraid that he's going to find me in Mississippi. So I drove to Nashville, stayed there for a couple of days. Reason I didn't go back to Arizona with my mom, because the court date was like that Tuesday after the weekend. They made me go back to court, and I was like, there's no reason to fly back and forth. So I drove to Nashville, drove back the day before court date. That was Thanksgiving Day. Stayed at a shelter house that protects women, and he called my mom, and he's like, hey, I'm tracking where she is. I know exactly, like, she went to Walgreens to get medicine or like a cold medicine. Like, I don't know how he know this information to this day, but yeah, it was scary at that point. So the whole court thing extended for a long time. Like, the whole divorce took like 2 years to be done. But man, that was I would say that was a milestone in my life.
That took incredible bravery, all of that.
Thank you.
I mean, truly a tremendous, to have the courage to even go to the police station alone, but to continue on. There's so many steps along the way that you had, so many hurdles that you had to go over, and it was drawn out for so long. How did you continue? Because a lot of times this happens and then people will go back, they'll have a weak moment and they'll go back. So what gave you the courage to keep, 2 years, that's a long time to fully be able to put that past you?
I would say it's a compounding effect of everything. Like, I feel like one of the reasons people relapse, whether it's drugs or in relationship, is that there's a point in our life, whether it's caused by pain, whether it's caused by near-death experience or something, where we have that mindset switch where it's like, it's enough. Like, I've had enough and I want to change. Like, I don't want it anymore. And I felt like the combination of being so lonely, hating the work that I do, like, all my friends are gone, the introspection of my relationship, the introspection that I only have one life and I'm going to be so miserable. And that decision to make a change, that there can't be anything worse than my current position, that when I made that decision, there was no going back. I didn't want to go back to that. And I guess that the hardest part through the process is all those court dates. Like, they make you go back.
Goodness.
The worst, they make the victim go back and relive the experience and tell the judge and convince the judge, of like the assault. Like, even now, I don't remember a lot of the things. I think like it maybe is some mechanism in my mind that like blocks it, because I don't want to remember like past events. But that was a difficult time because you just have to relive it for the court system.
Over and over.
Yeah.
So once that was behind you, officially behind you, sometimes these things probably still come up sometimes, but once you had passed that date, you're divorced, you're back in Arizona. How did you feel? And what did you do?
Oh, it's amazing. I lived with so I had to start. We had a house. I just pretty much everything. I just give it to me. I wanted to start fresh. I came to Arizona with my clothes and a few of my things.
You had nothing but your backpack and a few things.
And a few things. Well, he was this one thing he did is he let me have my stuff. Like that was really nice. That part.
You're very sweet. That was very That was very nice. How nice of him.
It was like the house and everything. Like I just want nothing of it. I came back here. I taught at Grand Canyon for 2 years. I was a teacher. And then I landed into real estate by accident almost because my mom has always been real estate, but we always hired out real estate agents. And I was like, why not? Like, why don't you get a real estate license or I get it? And like, keep it in the family, like make it in the family. And so I got my real estate license and I freaking love business. Like yes,
you do.
It's just so fun. It was like my first taste of negotiating, of like that feel after a close. And yeah, so it's amazing. Live in Arizona, all the changes that I've made to my life. And, it's just amazing. I love who I am today.
Yes, that I can tell that about you 1,000%.
Thank you, Amanda.
So what is next for you? Well, I know you're dating somebody now, yes?
Yes, I'm in a really happy relationship, very, very healthy relationship with a guy named Andrew. We've been together for 3 years.
It's been a bit.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's amazing because he's also very entrepreneurial too, and like he's very like action oriented. I learned how to be action oriented.
Yes,
so we complement each other really well.
You do. I've met him as twice. Yes, twice before, and you complement each other well in that way, and you can see your entrepreneurial spirits shine through to each other, and you do have different similarities, but different in some very positive ways where you kind of grow from each other in those ways. At least that's what I've noticed being your friend in this time frame. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's important in a relationship, like partnerships and relationships, we have to complement each other and help each other grow. Like there shouldn't be any talk down upon each other when you see growth in another person. You should push each other's boundaries. Like, hey, you're doing great, but you can also be like that person. You can also be a better person.
You're their cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That's what I love about our relationship.
Yeah, from what I know about him, he is a great guy.
Thank you.
And sometimes it's hard when you're in relationships where there was a lot of trauma, and then your relationship from the past where there's violence and abuse, to then put yourself into a situation where you're seeking a relationship that's healthy. What was difficult about that? Like, what were things in yourself that you had to be or wanted to be mindful of when pursuing another relationship?
So after the divorce, I had a few dating, and of course I dated and had a few relationship. And one of the things that changed a lot on the way I dated was I went to a women's networking event, and they told me, one of the dating coach told me that, hey, you should write down, the list of all the relationships you have, what made you attract to them, and also what made you break up with them. So that just itemize that list, funnily enough, made me realize like, hey, there's a pattern in the types of men that I date. They're usually like players. They're not serious, or like they have some aggressiveness hidden in them, or controlling qualities, right? So like from that event, I made a conscious decision to every guy that I date, if it fails, the next person I date is going to be completely opposite. So I consciously changed my dating pattern, and then I landed on my current relationship, which is perfect for me. So yeah, I think like knowing your pattern, even in dating, is really important.
Indeed. Yes, indeed it is. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
And what's next for you? I know you've got something on your agenda. I know you do.
What's next is helping the world, honestly. Like the business that I just created, it's so instrumental in helping. We're one of our partners opening a clinic in Phoenix that's going to be helping homeless people who does drug rehabilitation. Because of the law right now, is a lot of people who are going through drug rehab has a difficult time to get through the rehabilitation phase because they would relapse. So it's not a whole process, right? So we have an education system for them. We have healthcare, the whole system. So we're building that as well, one of our partners. And then we have like systems for environment to help, spaces like this to be more sustainable and clean. We have healthcare solutions that help treat illnesses that is already proven. So it's really exciting. I just launched the website today, EloraEnterprise.com.
Oh, what is it? Sorry, I interrupted you. Go.
EloraEnterprise.com.
EloraEnterprise.com.
So what we do is we connect solutions to issues.
I'm so honored to be here on this day. This is like a momentous day. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's incredible. I told you she had something up her sleeve.
Yeah. Ultimately, I just want to help people. I want to help people in a wider scale. Yes. So that's my goal.
Fantastic. And how else can we find you besides this website? I know you have an Instagram.
Yes, I do. Is at elora.tran. And then I have a TikTok, which is elora.realestate. And I'm a huge foodie, so I post a lot of food videos. You have great
stuff on there.
Thank
I was watching it the other day. You're always someplace fabulous. You were just someplace fabulous for your birthday too.
Yeah,
you were in New York, all over, and you were posting some fabulous videos.
Thank you.
She's very fun to watch.
It's just, life should be enjoyable. We should work hard and play hard.
Yes.
That's my motto.
Work hard and play hard.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming on the show today, and congratulations on the launch of your new website.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you for being here, and thank you for empowering women like us to take the step to make their life better. It's a very fearful thing to do, but I can promise you there will be support. There's systems and supporting women like us to make that transition. Even if your family is not supportive, we have you starting this podcast and resources to help you guys. So feel free to reach out to me.
Feel free to reach out to either of us. And you're right. You're not alone. There are many of us.
Right.
Many of us.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. And thank you for what you said. And your story is incredibly inspiring. And I know that it will help many. So thank you for, again, being brave and coming on and talking about it.
Absolutely. If it can help someone, I'm here. Thank you.
Because that's you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for listening to You're It Girl.